We live in a society where care of the body is important, and we have an incredible medical system to support physical ailments. And when you break your arm, no one ever says, tough it out, or just let it go. Or it's such a small break, barely a fracture. It's nothing at all. Why are you so bothered? But as a society, we aren't so good at managing those other hurts of living. The emotional damage, the spiritual fractures, that like colds and broken bones, are part of being alive and connected to others. We may have been deeply hurt by people we loved and trusted. We may be worn down by 1,000 plus microaggressions about the color of our skin or who we love. We may be injured from experiencing the great trauma of war and violence, or harmed by strict strictures of family or religion. There are a lot of ways to get hurt in this world. And while we can put on a strong suit of armor to get through the day, in the long run, armor is constricting. We're going to have to take it off at some point and face the hurts. As the saying goes, whatever you resist persists. So when we listen to the voices telling us to just toughen up, to get over it already, we end up carrying the pain longer. And sometimes this is just what you have to do to survive. That's certainly true for the many Indigenous people who were ignored when they spoke about the pain of residential schools or being treated as second-class citizens. And much of the work of our Truth and Reconciliation Commission was to listen and hear and honor their pain. And it has made a difference. Indigenous concerns, spoken from their own perspective, are in the news. They're winning court battles over rights and land. Our land acknowledgements serve as ongoing reminders of the costs of our colonial past. It's not enough, and it's imperfect, but it's part of that process towards healing and reconciliation. When there is harm in the past, healing begins when it is named and heard. When it is named and heard, whether that's just by your own self really recognizing and acknowledging it, or being able to share it with someone you trust, there's a release of stuck energy, and the phoenix rises from the ashes, renewed. I had a friend at university who was a lot of fun to be around, and also difficult. She did not suffer fools gladly, and she expressed a great deal of judgment. And at times it hurt, but if anyone called her on it, she was dismissive and never said sorry. So you learn not to say anything. And I found I was developing an underlying resentment despite valuing friendship. And one night she said something thoughtless when I was sharing a painful experience. And I said that her words hurt me. And she was silent for a moment, and for the first time looked at me and said sorry, sincerely. And just that word, said with meaning, was all it took for all of that resentment to release. I can remember a feeling of tension just washing away, because there's something sacred in the act of being truly heard. As people of the chalice, we take the inherent worth and dignity of all people as a central understanding. And it is a sign of the greatest respect to truly listen to another, to hear their emotional pain and not judge it, not take it on ourselves, not dismiss it, but to just, and not even to try and fix it, but just to hear the pain and acknowledge it. As American writer Rachel Naomi Remen says, the places in which we are seen and heard are holy places. They remind us of our value as human beings, and they give us the strength to go on. The places we are seen and heard are holy places. And it's my deepest hope that this is a holy place for each of you, that each of you is seen and heard here in all your beautiful glory. And when that happens, there's healing. When we release stuck energy, the phoenix rises. And that's true of individuals, communities, and societies. We need to acknowledge the harms and the hurts of the past in order to heal. We can't hide from them or deny them or bury them or forget about them. We just have to face them. Each of you has inherent worth. Please take care of yourselves. Treat yourselves with kindness and compassion. As I said last week, it's the survival of the nurtured. So I invite you, if you wish now, to place your hand on your heart, or just to hold your hands gently, or give yourself a hug. And remember a time when you were truly heard and seen. Did anything release in you? Has there been a time in your life when you became a phoenix who rose from the ashes? We're spending this year exploring healing and growing. Part of the healing process involves releasing past pain through naming and caring for that trauma, or through present experiences that just sort of dissolve the hurt. Healing might arise from being truly heard and seen, from the kindness of others, and it might come from within your own spirit. Because you can't make anyone acknowledge the harm they may have done. You can love and nurture yourself. It helps if you can feel all of your feelings, even the difficult ones, and simply accept them all. And it helps to speak your own truth, speak from what you feel and what you need. Sometimes it helps to tell a new story, to bring a new perspective to the past. So not the story of that bastard ruined my life, but I rose like a phoenix from that dreadful experience. There's a therapist who calls this finding the good agate. And agate to her means being able to stay with the good bits of your life, find the joy even as you hurt and struggle. For collectives, like this child's community or countries, healing involves being able to name the past or the problem openly, without blame or judgment, without defensiveness, being able to sit with the uncomfortable feelings together. The country of Germany has worked hard to acknowledge and accept the horrific legacy of Hitler and Nazism. And this collective culture of atonement is known as Vergangenheitsverarbeitung. And this translates loosely, very loosely, to working off the past. And Germany understood eventually as a nation that they had to face that criminal past in order to become whole and strong, not riven by unsaid guilt, unsaid resentment. It was a process that takes time, is still ongoing, but you come out better in the end. And of course, in Germany, it's imperfect and it hasn't stopped extremism, but it has been a meaningful experience for the country as a whole to fully wrestle with their past. Police officers actually have to spend 2 years of their training studying the Holocaust and Nazism, so as not to allow it to ever happen again. And here, as I said, in Canada, we're beginning that process with true reconciliation with the Indigenous people. And we're also in the early stages of facing our systemic racism. And with us as Unitarians, our 8th principle is just the beginning of our acknowledging that painful history of our past. And it's when we face the past, we can see our wholeness and be our whole selves. And as Unitarian Universalists, I believe that we are seeing life steadily and seeing it whole. Because we don't begin from concepts of original sin or see people as inherently broken. We begin from wholeness, seeing people as whole beings, and from that sense of interdependence with all other beings in the world. We say we belong to the earth, and that means that no matter how we are, we still belong. We're still part of this whole. We are still whole as ourselves, even when we're struggling, when we're wounded. And knowing we begins from wholeness means that we also understand, as the Buddha says, that life is suffering as well as joy. Wholeness means pain and healing are all jumbled up together. You heal a little, hurt a little, heal a little bit more. It's part of being whole and holy beings. And that from wholeness helps us develop empathy. Rachel Naomi Roman says that wounding and healing are not opposites. They're part of the same thing, because it's our wounds that enable us to be compassionate with the wounds of others. And it's our limitations that make us be kind to the limitations of other people. Kindness and empathy helps everyone heal, from the pain of just being alive and moving through this world. We all carry hurts. Some are easier to heal than others, and some take a lifetime to process and release. But we are always whole, pain, wounds, and all. UU Minister Nancy Schaefer writes, "How shall we mend you, sweet soul? What shall we use, and how is it in the first place you've come to be torn? Come sit, come tell me. We will find a way to mend you." Being seen, being heard, that is the first step towards healing, being acknowledged in your emotional suffering. The poem ends, "How shall we mend you, sweet soul? With these, I think gently, we can begin. We will mend you with a rocking chair, some raisins, a cat, a field of lavender beginning now to bloom. We will mend you with pieces of your own sweet self, sweet soul, with what you've taught from the very beginning." And I love this idea that we mend with pieces of our own sweet self, that we're already whole no matter how torn our souls might feel. Just sometimes forget that. May we be heard and seen. May we rise like a phoenix from the ashes of pain. May we find the good in ourselves, the good in life. Remember that we are, just as we are, part of a great and wondrous whole. So say we all.